Hey everybody, it's Dan with Florida Luxury Realty, and we are happy to bring you the webinar Wednesday today. And this is something that we do quite often, where we jump in and do a webinar. Today we're going to be talking about a really cool topic, and that is mindset and action. So this is a breakthrough session for you. I hope that you get a lot out of this. I hope that you can take some of what I teach you today and put it into practice in your everyday business. I do want to start at the outset by saying that it is so critically important that we understand that the way that we think affects the things that we do. So Henry Ford had a famous saying, and it says, if you believe you can, or if you believe you can't, either way, you're correct. And simply put, that means that those of you that are having great success and are doing well have a mindset that drives your actions. So we're going to talk a lot about that today. I want to share that with you, and I'm hopeful that you can take this and turn it into something really great for your business. So let's get started. All right. So there's there are some things that I'd like to share with you about our organization. Some of them you already know, some of them you may not. Caring is in everything that we do. It is important that we care about our clients and customers and those professionals that we're working with. As you know, giving is more valuable than receiving. Action achieves purpose, kind of the topic of today's webinar. Learning empowers greatness. Confidence catapults success. You have to know what you're doing to be confident that you're doing it correctly. Momentum, the direction you're heading, determines your results, and you must compete to win. Now more than ever, you must have a competitive edge to do well in the real estate business. Who is in control of your success? You are. I am in total control of my success with no limits. Success does not come out and find me. I have to go and I have to achieve it. And I've got to do that every single day. I have to make that decision to be great every day. And let me ask you a question. Do you have the right mindset? So before you start any venture or any project, you've got to have the right mindset. And then do you take action every single day? The purpose and objective today for today's webinar is we're going to look at ourselves and perform a reality check about our mindset and our actions. We're going to take an inventory and see where we really are. Then we're going to develop a working strategy to overcome our own obstacles that stand in the way of our own personal success. And we're going to take action on those things that we don't believe are personally accomplishable, meaning that these are things we thought we couldn't do in the past. But we're going to challenge some of those thoughts today, and we're going to show you that you can, in fact, do those things. We're also going to commit to a detailed daily to-do list, which includes both skill building and lead generation. Those are both extremely important. You've got to get better, and you've also got to find clients. We're going to teach you how to do that and how to break through the impossible and unable and to forever change your future. If you take this to heart, you will see a difference in your business. So I encourage you to take some notes and ask some questions during and after this webinar. All right, priority number one, identify your weaknesses. We also call these opportunities. And the reason we call them opportunities is because they're areas that you can grow in and you can get better. And so we have to identify those. Look, is your daily work hours always overloaded with tasks and appointments? I mean, as an Asian, I'm sure you know that there's a lot to do. So is your schedule being conducive to doing the things you need to do, or is it overloaded? Are you never leaving time to do generation? You're only as busy as your next client. So you've got to always be lead generating. We talk about a pipeline. You want to have a really good, solid pipeline that you can draw from. And the only way to do that is to have positive, solid lead generation. If this is true, then you need to outsource some of your tasks. Are you doing things perhaps every day that are causing you to get off track and not enabling you to prospect? That's something that you need to consider and think about. All right. Do you think about what you do with your time and then occupy it with nothing productive? I recently challenged a couple of my agents here at our office to write down and to track what they were doing over the course of an entire week. And results were amazing because they found that what they were actually doing wasn't super productive, but they felt really busy and even to some degree accomplished at the end of that week. But they realized that those things weren't actually generating business. So it's important that the things that we're doing are productive. So ask yourself that question. Are you occupying your time with nothing productive and hoping for a result out of that? Do you waste the time away and call it work? There's a lot of busy work you can do in real estate. There's a lot of paperwork and there's research and stuff, and all that is necessary. But if that's your entire day, then you're not going to grow your business. If you're finding that this is true with yourself, you need to personally be accountable to someone else to make you do it. A great person could be a spouse or a roommate or a friend or your broker or a colleague, but you need to find somebody who you trust and have a good relationship with that can say to you at the end of the week, hey, so tell me about how your prospecting went this week. Did you hit the goal that you set? Because we talked last week about you getting 15 new prospects this week. I just want to know how that's going for you. They can encourage you and they can support you to make sure that you're doing what you need to be doing. Here's one that I actually talked about in a video series recently, and that is, do you fear rejection? Do you not perform proactive prospecting actions because you're afraid that what if they say no? We do know from a lot of research and statistics that people tend to say no about 7 or 8 times before they say yes. And that's just because they may not be ready for the message that you're giving them, and they may not have a need for what you're offering at that time. But remember, prospecting isn't just about finding a client today. It's about establishing a relationship so you can serve that client tomorrow. So keep that in mind. If you find yourself afraid to do these prospecting things that you need to do, then I want you to ask yourself the question, is that fear really founded? If this is the case, you need to practice your skills with a partner and then seek inner confidence. So there's no way to get better at doing something than doing it over and over. We all remember learning to ride a bike. I can still remember the first time I got on a bicycle, and I'm sure you can too if you look into your memory a little bit. I was scared. I was concerned I was going to fall off. I thought I would get hurt. I didn't want to look silly in front of the other kids in the neighborhood. It ended up taking me a couple of tries and I had to get a push. I remember my grandfather pushing me, but I got the courage. And then pretty soon I hopped on that bike and it wasn't nearly as daunting of a task. You do fall off and you get bruises and bumps, but the difference is that you don't have that fear that's associated with that. So you got to practice. You have to practice to get better at anything. So I want to encourage you to set up time in your schedule every week to practice getting better. And let me ask you this question. Do you believe that you have less ability to deliver top-notch service than other agents do? That's a really deep question. And I think if a lot of agents are honest, they do feel a little bit inferior, a little bit nervous about presenting their case because they maybe see what they perceive as other agents that are doing it at a high level, and they really don't feel that they're worth what they're asking the client to pay, or even really worth being hired. So you've got to start to ask yourself, if that's how you feel, then I want to encourage you to address those things that are making you feel that way. So if you feel like you don't have enough experience, or you don't know your scripts well enough, or you don't have all the right answers, then you got to get in there and you got to practice. If this is the case, then what's going to happen is the client's simply not going to hire you. They're going to hire somebody else, because if you go to a service provider and you ask them for a service and they say, yeah, well, I kind of think I can, you're not going to be confident to hire them. So you want to know that they want to know that you're capable of delivering the service that they need. If this is the case for you, you have to remind yourself that you do care and you have all the same tools as your competition. I hope that gives you a little peace of mind when you're out on your next listing appointment or you're working with your next buyer. You have all the same tools at your disposal that they do. They might have a different flyer, or you might have a different, software tool, but the reality is the playing field is extremely level. What you need is you need confidence, and you need experience, and you need skill. And those are all things you can get by working hard. So you have all the opportunity there. Let's talk for a minute about what our business is. Real estate is a people business. meaning that we're going to be interacting with people every day. We are going to be serving people every day. So if you're a person that loves people, this is going to be a great business for you because you're going to interact with lots of people. Here's a news flash. You're going to interact with some people that you don't like a whole lot. That's okay. We're in the service business. We don't necessarily choose all of our clients, but we do have the opportunity to give them great service. How is our success created in the business that we're in? It's our ability to influence people. So those people that we serve. Many times people come to us as new clients and they don't know the process. Most people only buy and sell a home 3 times in their life in the United States. That's not a lot. So they've only got a little bit of experience in doing this, and you're the professional. So you've got to be able to influence them in a positive way to get them to do what you need them to do to make sure the transaction goes smoothly, and most importantly, for them and for you, that it closes. So I just want to encourage you to realize that your ability to influence somebody is a really big part of your real estate success. What exactly is influence? Well, the definition of influence, to put it simply, is the capacity or power of a person or persons or things to be a compelling force or produce effects on the actions, behaviors, or opinions of others. So if I tell you something and you don't believe it, I haven't influenced you. But if I tell you something or share something with you and you buy into what I'm saying and you get excited about what I'm saying, then I've influenced you to take action. And that's what you need to do with your clients. All right, let's move on. How do you feel about your ability to influence really anyone? Um, to influence somebody, let's talk briefly about this. So to influence anybody, you have to have a certain skill. First of all, you have to know what you're talking about. So you've got to be studied, you've got to be skilled, you've got to be knowledgeable. I do recommend strongly that you never shoot from the hip. If you don't know something for sure, it is not ever wrong to say, I don't have the answer to that. I do have a great team that I work with, and I will get you the answer. I think people respect that. And when you're trying to influence somebody, they're going to notice if you're wrong. So you want to be right. That doesn't mean that you need to be afraid of being wrong. It just means that you need to be honest if you don't know something, but be very quick to get them the answer, and that's okay. I think people will respect that. Your skill of being able to influence somebody is directly attributed to your resistance to put yourself in a situation where you could be rejected. And we all know about this. I've asked many people through the years to record videos and to shoot little short commercials or whatever, and I get almost always, with almost no exception, I get the same response. Oh, I couldn't possibly do that. I don't want to be on camera. I might make a mistake. These are all normal feelings. By the way, everybody feels this way. Even the person who gets in front of the camera every day and does a commercial for their business feels this way. So that rejection that you're thinking about potentially happening is normal. It's what you do with it that makes the difference. So you could possibly get, or you possibly will be rejected. How do you react to doing anything that may result in being rejected? Let's look at these 3 different reactions here. The average person reacts with a let's not do it, and that's the most normal. Some will react a little bit more proactively, those that have trained themselves to do that, and then some just absolutely won't do it at all. So what I want to encourage you to do is be somebody who will do it. And how does the average person change their mindset and get into what we call the danger zone? There's an expression out there, and it's called hug your monsters. And what that means is there are things every day that you know that you need to do that you don't because you're afraid. And you've got to get in that danger zone and play in that space to really have great success in your business. If you're not willing to do those things that you're afraid of, you won't be successful. You'll be limited to your own preconceived ideas about what you're capable of. If your business, I want to ask you a question here as we go through this. If your business relies on getting a yes answer and doing absolutely nothing gets you a no answer, why is this an acceptable result? So if I'm a real estate professional and I know that I need to get at least 5 yeses this week, and I'm not willing to go out and get 20 no's to get those 5 yeses, but I'm willing to not do anything and get all no's, Well, why is that acceptable? Well, I think we would say it's probably not. So we've got to think about that, ask ourselves why we're willing to accept that. Um, and talking a little bit more about that, I find that if you write down your, as you're going out and prospecting, meeting people, talking to people on the phone, all that stuff, if you write down your results, you'll have a better opportunity to see that, it does take X number of no's to get to a yes. And it's kind of a cliche, I know, but it is true. And once you start hitting some of those home runs and you start getting those yeses, you realize that no doesn't necessarily mean rejection. We talked about that a few minutes ago. And I would like you to go ahead and write that down. No doesn't mean rejection. There's two things I want you to think about. No is not a rejection of you personally. It's simply an I don't need your services at this time. But there's good news. They will need your services in the future. So no is really not a yes. A no is not a rejection. No is really a yes for later because you're building an opportunity to network with that person down the road. So I kind of want you to throw that in there. That might give you a little more peace of mind as you go out and face what you perceive to be some rejection. Let your results do the talking. If you go for a yes answer and get a no, you still win. And we just discussed that. So I want you to think about that. Try and fail, but don't fail to try. Trying is the only right answer. I can think of so many times in my life personally when I didn't try out for something because I thought I might not make it. The regret that I feel from not doing that is far greater than the rejection I might have felt if I didn't, make the soccer team or make the tennis club. And so I want to encourage you to try. You only get to go through life one time. And I really believe in really swinging for it and going for broke. And I think that most people, when you talk to them, they say that the regret isn't that they tried and messed up. The biggest regret is that they never tried to do something that they felt they could potentially be good at. So I want you to try and don't be afraid to try and realize that failing to try is worse than failing. All right. You got to feed your mind with confidence and believe in yourself. So you've got to know the tools and tasks that you're working on. There's a few ways that you can feed yourself with confidence. The number one way is to get really good at what you do. So if somebody says to you, I want to hire you to be my real estate professional, I want you to be my advocate, and you're excellent at what you do, you're going to have a lot of confidence when you advise them on how to price their home or how to purchase a home the right way. That's going to increase your confidence. So spend time getting good at what you do. Then you will believe in yourself. And then obviously you need to know the tasks involved in what you do as well. So let me ask you, this is just a question I want you to reflect on. Do you know how to search properties on the MLS? Do you know how to use the lockbox application, the Superbox? Do you know how to make showing appointments? Do you know how to fill out contracts and forms? Do you know how to research comps to price property? Do you know how to get a photo of a property? Describe a property? Enter a listing into MLS? Attend to property showings? Research tax rolls? Use your back office or software that your company provides you? Drive an automobile? Have conversations with new people and people that you know? Create and send emails? Make and answer phone calls? Be kind and share knowledge. So I would say that you know the tools and tasks. What I would challenge you to do, though, is to get great at all of these tools and tasks. See, it's one thing to learn how to do something and then not to practice it. It's quite a different thing to become an expert at it. And so, what I'd like to challenge you to do today is to get great at all of these things. This kind of summarizes a lot of what we do as real estate professionals here. And I think you should know how to do all these things extremely well to be a really well-rounded real estate professional. All right. If there are no questions at this time, what I'll do is I'll jump back to them at the end of the webinar and we will answer questions at that time. All right. What should every real estate agent do to become great at influencing people? You got to master the skills that influence people. So there's a certain skill set that you need to develop to get better at persuading others to do what you need and want them to do. So, quick example, I have a seller and I'm listing his or her home, and I'm recommending to them that they list their home at a certain price. They have a different idea in their mind, though. They want to list it at a higher price because they want to make more money. We all do. But you know that if they do that, they run the risk of missing the first opportunity to make that sale, and you're concerned that their judgment is wrong. Well, you've got to be able to persuade them, to influence them to do the right thing. So, how do you do that? Well, obviously, you're going to go through and you're going to share some really important statistics with them. You're also going to ask them questions about what it might look like if they didn't sell their home and how that would impact them financially. But the point is that you're going to use skills and tasks that you develop to persuade and influence them to do what is correct for themselves. There is a piece to this that I do want to talk about, and that is your body language, your tonality, and your words. And let's just do a quick example of this. And I have a couple of videos to show you too. Somebody asked me, Dan, how's your day going? And I say, my day's going good. And I kind of slouch. Well, no one's really going to be convinced that my day's going good because I slouched. I had bad tonality and I didn't really use any exciting words. But if someone said, Dan, how's your day going? And I sort of straightened up and said, my day's going terrific, and I elaborated on that a little bit, I would get a better response. So I want to encourage you to think about your body language, your tonality, and your words. I do have some videos to share with you that I think will help you with this, and we're going to take a look at those at this time. Enjoy.
Everybody wants to be more effective. Everybody wants to influence other people better in many different ways. And one of the strongest ways you have is the use of body language. Body language, according to Dr. Albert Morabian at UCLA, constitutes 55% of the message that you send in a face-to-face communication. So what you have to do is you have to learn how to use body language in an effective way. Some of my friends are the world's experts on body language. And you'll find, by the way, that body language is the same in many cases worldwide. There are certain differences. In ancient times, when people met new people, especially in strange places at night and other places, they would have to be very careful because you never knew if someone was dangerous. So what they would do is they would open up their hands when they met a new person. Today, we shake hands, and we shake hands with the sword hand. We shake hands with the gun hand. This is to show the other person that there is no weapon hidden. When we open up both hands, it shows that we have no weapons. This is quite common. So one of the first things you do in body language, you just open your hands. Now, today, people actually embrace each other. When you embrace each other with both hands, it means that you cannot have any weapons, and neither can they. Another form of body language, which is very important, is to smile at people and look straight at them and hold your hands. Now, some people say that when a person folds their arms, it means that they're closed off. Well, this is not always true. In many cases, it's because people are uncomfortable folding their arms, or they're cold, or they have an ache or a pain somewhere. So never interpret that automatically. But if you're in a meeting with someone else and you find yourself folding your arms, deliberately open your arms. When you open your arms, what you say is, I am open to what you are saying. I'm open to your message. When you close your arms, it can be misinterpreted. Now, another form of body language is nodding and smiling. It's just leaning slightly forward and nodding and smiling. You see, in psychology, we always pay the most attention to people who we most value. You can remember being in a situation where somebody says something and you immediately jump up, you immediately lean forward, you're immediately engaged in the conversation. That tells you that that person grabbed your attention. So the message that you convey in a sales conversation is 55% body language and nonverbal, 38% the tone of voice, and only 7% the actual words that you use. Remember, Maya Angelou said that people will forget everything that you said in a conversation, but they'll never forget the way that you made them feel. So a form of body language you can use is to stand straight when you talk. Stand straight, open your eyes, Look directly at the person, smile, and shake hands firmly to show them that you're happy to be here, that you're happy to meet them. I remember a man in my seminar, and he was from India. And he was saying to me that he was really concerned because he really knew his subject well. He understood his product or service. But when he met a new customer, the new customer would lose interest almost immediately in talking to him. Well, when I shook hands with him, his handshake was like a wet fish. His hand just hung there like it was dead from the elbow down. And I'd lived in India for long, long periods of time. And I realized that he didn't understand that in Western culture, a firm handshake means character, honesty, quality, trustworthiness, and a whole bunch of other things. He just thought it was just something that people did. So when he met a new person, he'd just hold out his hand like this. And the person would have to, take his hand and he just leave. So I taught him how to shake hands firmly. I took him aside and made him practice. I said, practice this every time you meet somebody. I met him about 2 months later and his career had taken off. He said all of the initial reluctance he used to get from prospects gone completely. When he shook hands with them firmly and looked them in the eye, he said nobody would ever tell him this was his problem. Another thing, by the way, is that first impressions are lasting. One of the things that I'm concerned about, as you can see, is dress. Many people today have been misled. The fact is that 95% of the first impression you make on other people is dress and grooming. Many people say, people shouldn't judge me by the way I look. Well, you judge everybody else by the way they look. Imagine if you walked into a restaurant, a nice restaurant, and the guy who came up to service you was wearing short pants, an undershirt, a tractor cap facing backwards, and beach thongs in a first-class restaurant. How would you feel about dining at that restaurant? Would you think that this person was mentally ill? Well, how do you deal with someone who is trying to sell you an expensive product or service who looks like a complete bum, looks like a homeless person? So be very important. It's very important. First impression, sit upright, face forward, and ask a lot of questions. The very best form of body language is to ask really good questions and lean forward and listen closely to the answers and nod and smile and agree. And if you'll do that, you'll make a tremendous impression on other people, especially a first impression. So thank you for watching. What's the one action that you're going to take from now on to use your body language more effectively? Are you going to open your eyes, shake hands firmly, smile, tell people you're happy to be with them, ask them questions, and listen closely? Leave a comment below. And until next time, remember that only you are responsible for your success. Whatever you're achieving is coming from your own actions and your own behaviors.
All right, guys. So hopefully that was a little bit insightful for you. We do have a couple more videos I want to show you. The next one is going to be about the power of tonality and the way that we say things. I'm going to share that with you now.
Hello. Today I want to talk to you about what may be the most important aspect of nonverbal and verbal communication. It stems from every single word that you say. You have no choice but to express yourself with a certain tonality. Tonality is so powerful. Think about the days when you were a young kid and your parents said, "Don't use that tone of voice with me, young man." It's so impacting. It oftentimes carries more weight than the actual words that you use. The very important thing to remember is, regardless of whether you think you're using a certain tonality or not, everything you say is said with a tonality. I think most of the time people think they're using a tonality that is very neutral and it kind of maintains the current vibe or the current energy of the interaction, while they don't really realize they're coming from a little bit different perspective than what they think. Now, the three different types of tonality are rapport breaking, neutral, and rapport seeking. So think about rapport seeking for a minute. Think about you're talking to a boss or you're at an interview. Most of the time, the inflection of your voice towards the end of the sentence is going to go up. So let's do something easy with "how are you doing?" So you're going to say something like, "How are you doing?" Very supplicating, once again, very looking for approval. trying not to ruffle any feathers, trying not to give them any reason to feel anything except for you're going to be friendly for them. How are you today? How are you doing? It sounds like a sales call almost. How's your week been? Very high pitch. Actually, when you think about it more, the entire tone sometimes is high pitch with inflection at the end. So how are you? Very high level the whole time, almost like you're singing a little bit. When you listen to it and you see people interacting and you hear that tone, it's actually kind of hard to listen to because you realize the other person is brown nosing. It's almost kind of offensive. But the problem is too many people use that tone at the beginning of the interaction thinking that's the best way to come across because once again, you're not ruffling any feathers. You're meeting someone new. You want them to like you, don't you? Yes, but you also want them to respect you. Okay, so now you can speak with a neutral tonality. So now you're talking like I'm talking right now. How are you? You know, it's not too high. You're not singing. You're not in your head voice, but you're not also coming down. You're not breaking rapport either. So how are you? How was your week? How's everything been going with you? How are the kids? Anything like that is very neutral. It's going to kind of maintain the energy you put forth, unless, of course, you're coming from this rapport-seeking tonality that I started with. And lastly, you've got what's called rapport-breaking tonality. So that typically is going to trail off with a lowering in the tone of your voice. So how does this come across when I say this? How are you? How was your week? Oh yeah, how's the wife been? It sounds like a boss speaking to a coworker or a employee, doesn't it? It's actually the most powerful type of tonality because it indicates that you're not worried about ruffling feathers. You're comfortable the way you're perceived. And it's very strange because there's nothing specifically about that type of tonality that intuitively tells you that he's trying to break rapport or that he's not worried about how he comes across, but it's so easy to identify. I mean, you could take anyone off the street and show them me saying these three things and say, guess who he's interacting with? Is he worried about how he's perceived? Does he put the person he's talking to status above him? I would guess that a 10-year-old kid oftentimes would get everything correct because it's such a crux of human interaction and human communication. So when I talk about the communication equilibrium, you can think of it as a seesaw, as a balance, as I always talk about, or you can just think of it, are you interacting with someone who's cooler than you or not? I mean, I heard many years ago, the world is a big high school. Cool people stay cool and dorks stay dorks. Well, that's not true. People obviously change, but there is always a perception where people are trying to scan out your social value or are you cool or not. So pretty much when I say if you're slipping in the scale, just think of it as, does the person you talk to all of a sudden think you're a little less cool? Do they think they're a little cooler than you? Are they putting you below them? Are you putting them on a pedestal? When that happens, I'm referring to when the equilibrium shifts against you, you're at 40, they're at 60. So that's another way to kind of conceptualize this premise. So say you're approaching the quarterback of the team and you don't play football and you're trying to come across in a really good light, you're going to feel when you're interacting to them very stifled. You're going to feel like you can't be yourself, like you're trying to put on a good impression because you know what they think of you can have an impact on your life. All of a sudden, it's the end of a football game and he's walking out and he's like, oh, hey, how are you doing, man? How'd you think of the game? And everyone sees that. Well, they're going to think, wow, this guy must be cool. The coolest guy in school is giving him props. That's very important to think about. So you're going to come at it with a very rapport-seeking tonality. And the problem is what you're trying to do is actually the opposite of what you're going to achieve. You want him to like you. Instead, you're going to come across as someone that doesn't respect themselves, therefore doesn't think that the quarterback should respect him. And odds are the quarterback won't respect him and won't like him. So it's very important when you're going up to someone who it's very important to you what they think of you, watch that tonality. Now, let's use this in a business setting. You're talking to your boss. I coach people all the time who say, how should I interact with my boss? I feel like they don't respect me. They talk down to me. Well, I say, let's pretend we're interacting right now. And 99% of the time, they're using a very supplicating, rapport-seeking, oh, please like me, throw me a bone, put me on mentality. Whereas I don't coach them to say, come at them with a rapport-breaking tonality. Try a neutral tonality. And the surprising thing is when you're using a neutral tonality with someone who you perceive as higher value to you, you will feel like you're talking with a very rapport-breaking tonality because you're so used to supplicating and so used to putting them on a pedestal. So even if you start to speak with them like, yeah, how was your week? Was everything good? A very on the same page as the other person, you'll feel like you're saying, how was your week? How are things with your wife? But in actuality, that's your perception. That's not what's really going on. So if you're in a situation like this, and most people are, that they have someone that it's very important how they perceive them, whether because of work or for personal reasons, watch your tonality and try to come at them with a much more rapport neutral tone as opposed to rapport seeking. Basically, what tonality is telling people in a non-directly communicative way is that how do you respect yourself compared to the person that you're talking to? Do you respect them more than you? Basic as that. If you respect them more than you, it's natural for people to use an inflection in their voice that's very rapport seeking. If you put your value the same as them, it's going to be more neutral. And if you put their value below you, it's going to be more neutral to rapport breaking. So keep that in mind when you want to control your perception, especially in a situation where you're talking to someone that you perceive as having a little higher value or is a little cooler than you. Try to come in with a much more neutral tonality as opposed to what feels more natural with a very supplicating tone. Use this today, and I think you'll be impressed with how much it allows you to control other people's perceptions of you. And once you use it in a very small instance, you'll realize how effective it is. You'll start to notice both consciously and subconsciously how you're coming off with these different tonalities and begin to use it more and more effectively as you begin to understand and appreciate its true value and its power.
All right, so next up we have a video from Mike Ferry, one of the real estate gurus of our time, and he's going to talk about developing your scripts and dialogues and your responses to questions so that you're not looking for the answers, but you know the answers. And this is a good video. I encourage you to take some notes and ask some questions at the end.
Welcome back to Mike Ferry TV. A couple weeks ago, I asked you to strongly consider tracking your numbers. I'm just curious what you've done with that. As you know, the last 2 weeks, I talked to you a lot about Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, Your Right to Be Rich, how to become better at what you do. So what we're looking at, of course, as we progress through Mike Ferry TV, skills, dialogue, scripts, mindset, all the things that are required to build a great salesperson. So today, I want to spend a little time with you on a very important topic, which is very abused in real estate. In fact, it's almost not used at all. I titled this Practicing Scripts and Dialogues, Developing Skills. So let me ask you a question. Would you accept this thought? Knowledge equals confidence. Yes. Watch. Ignorance equals fear. Oh no. See, you have to think about what I just said. Knowledge equals confidence. Yes. Ignorance equals fear. Oh no, I don't want to get involved in it. I don't want to see that. And I don't want to be there. And I hope they don't say something. You ever noticed how when you're very knowledgeable about any topic, any thought process, any action, how confident you are to walk into it? You ever notice that if you're a little bit ajar, you're not exactly sure, how all the little fears start to rise and they stop you from performing? Well, in selling real estate, that is 100% the case. The stronger your knowledge of your scripts, the stronger your knowledge of your activities, the stronger your knowledge of who you are and what you can do, the higher the level of performance. But when there's ignorance, meaning you don't know what to say, don't know what to do, and watch this example. Have you ever driven by a for sale by owner and not stopped? Of course you have. And why'd you drive by and not stop? Because you didn't know what to say when you got to the front door. See, the knowledge of what to say gives you the confidence, knock, knock. The fear, not knowing what to say, gives you the opportunity to accelerate, get out of the neighborhood. So how do we become more knowledgeable? And the answer is practicing your scripts and dialogues. So I wrote down a couple of thoughts. I'm going to go through them with you today. The two most important rules in selling are A, asking good questions of people that you're talking to. B, listening carefully to the answers. Two most important rules in selling are asking good questions to people you're talking to. If you are approaching a seller, you're approaching a prospect, a past client, centers of influence, buy owner expired, and you don't know what to say, how much does that affect your confidence in walking up and having a conversation about them possibly buying or selling a home? It affects it 100%. So therefore, asking good questions is an issue that we have to develop. How do you learn to ask good questions? You have to practice all the time. But then I said, B, listening carefully to the others. Well, how do you do these two things? Practice and role play. Practice and role play. See, in a real business, practice and role play are critical. I remember many years ago, I had the fortune of talking to a professional football coach. I asked him, I said, how much time does a pro football team actually spend in practice prior to a 1 hour game? His answer was 61 hours of practice for a 1 hour game. I said, now wait a minute. These are professional football players. These are the best in the world. Why would they practice 61 hours? He said, so we don't make a mistake, so we don't screw up. He said, every professional practices every day. He said, amateurs don't practice at all. And I thought to myself, this industry is an industry of amateurs. Real estate's an industry of amateurs. We're charging professional fees for amateur performance. Now think about that. We expect to get paid premium fees for really, in most cases, amateur performance. Why? We don't practice. So how do I become good at asking questions? I practice. I wrote down a second thought. Practice revolves around two issues: the amount of time you spend daily doing it, and B, the intensity of that time. Two issues in practicing. The amount of time. Am I going to spend 5 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, 40 minutes a day? I've listened to some of the top agents in the country talk. Some of them still spend, and these are people operating up here, 30, 40 minutes a day practicing. Some of them spent 2-3 hours a day when we first got together so they could learn the scripts and dialogues to develop the confidence to go in and do their job. Watch, the amount of time I'm willing to spend and the intensity of that time. Am I distracted, looking around and checking my iPhone and listening for an email to come in, bing, bing, and to talk, hi, Mary, how are you? And have to have a cup of coffee and trying to find my note. Or am I focused on my practice? All right, we're going to role play now the just listed script, and you go right into it. If you don't have any intensity, you can't expect any results. So I wrote down, create a practice schedule routine for yourself. Most of the top agents will practice first thing in the morning. They walk in the office to get their administrative work done. Maybe they get their cup of coffee, and then they'll practice and role play 30, 40 minutes every day. How come if the agent's doing 50, 75, 100 deals a year, practice or scripts, and they have this production, and the ones that don't practice have that production, and when I tell them they might consider practice, they want to get mad at me because they're not professional real estate people. You're a professional real estate agent. You got to practice. And then, of course, I wrote down your practice time should be on your daily schedule, no different than prospecting a lead follow-up. Practice. I had a guy say to me one time that used to be a pro football player. Listen to this great quote. Poor practice, no matter how much you do of it, does not improve performance because it's still poor practice. So therefore, if you're going to practice your scripts and dialogues, if you're going to become knowledgeable and confident, then you're going to have to understand that you have to practice the right scripts. I mean, watch. If you practice the following, Mr. Frey, would you cut your commission? How much? If you're practicing, how much? Guess what you're going to say? You're in the field. How much? Mr. Frey, I want you to cut your commission. No. Any other questions? See, I have to practice the intensity. I have to practice the right things. Hi, my name is Mike. I was wondering, when do you plan on moving? Hi, do you want to sell your home? That doesn't work. Okay. Poor practice, poor scripts, poor dialogues, nothing but trouble all the time. Then I wrote down this thought. Okay. If you want to become good, and I don't know how good you want to become, but if you want to become good, how about this? Record your practice sessions. Turn on the recorder, record them. Listen back. Are you asking the questions? Are you following the scripts? Are you operating with intensity? Okay. I wrote down a great quote somebody gave me, one of our top agents. Our growth is determined by our willingness to practice, and our confidence comes from that practice. Customers and prospects want confident people. Isn't that a great thought? Our growth is determined by our willingness to practice, and our confidence comes from that practice. Customers and prospects want confident people, okay? And the last thought I want to give you on this thought about practice, because the truth is, we don't do it and we should be. Watch. There's always room for improvement, no matter how good we are, how big our numbers are, how successful we are. We have agents that are doing 150, 200, 250 transactions a year. Not REO business, straight residential. They practice their scripts every day. Okay, challenge to you. You want to be knowledgeable and confident, or ignorant and fearful? Do you want to be productive and profitable, or be like most agents? You wouldn't be watching if we didn't both know the answer. Put the business to work for you at the highest level by practicing. See you next week.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching that video series there with Mike Ferry. It's a lot of good stuff to think about. All right, what if you took action and mastered influencing people to choose you for real estate services? The results would be a direct impact on your mindset, your level of confidence, and you'd do more business and enjoy earning a higher income than you've ever done in real estate before. Have you ever been in a car accident? Do you still drive? People who have been in car accidents do still drive. They simply become better drivers. You're more aware of how to avoid another accident. So when you approach a for sale by owner, when you approach someone who is considering listing their property and you don't win that appointment, you still got to think about it. You did gain something. As we talked about before, you gained some rapport with that person for a future transaction, but you also gained a piece of practice and of skill building that you could not have otherwise done if you hadn't have been with them. So I just want you to think about that. Do you feel incapable of acquiring the ability to highly influence others and overcome your personal fears of rejection? Let me ask you a question. Are you handicapped? Amazing artists with no hands, swimmers with no legs. Really, what is your excuse? There are so many people out there who have done such great things with such limitations that you and I really don't have any excuse at all, do we, to not really do our very, very best. Are you handicapped or in business or in life? The answer is no. Your handicap is only the lack of skill because you've not taken the time to learn the steps to do great at your business. It's time to stop avoiding opportunities, and it's time to start applying yourself to skills and actions that build your business. Remind yourself of the purpose. What are you doing? And why are you doing the actions that you are doing? Well, we can talk a little bit about it. It might not just be for money. It should also be for other things. And we recently watched a Facebook post by some friends of mine here in the area, and they were talking about having a dream board, a vision board. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But there are these other things that you want out of life, and those are the things that you should be working for every day. And there are some of them illustrated here on your screen. 401k, paying off debt, more time with family, possibly a new car, a vacation, saving money. These are the things. Success as a real estate agent requires devotion to actions that result in successful closed transactions. What is it that a real estate agent does that determines their level of success? Well, it's their ability to connect, influence people, to choose them to provide their real estate services. So someone's got to pick you to list or sell their home. Someone's got to pick you to show them homes to buy. So you got to put yourself in a position to earn that business. What do top successful real estate agents, the very best in our market, what are they doing to earn themselves the highest potential income in the business? Well, I'll tell you, it's a simple answer. They're perfecting the skills of discovering, connecting, and influencing people's needs and those that need their real estate services. So they're getting really good. They have determined what it is that their client needs ahead of time. And they're able to ask great questions so that the client feels like they're serving their best interest. And so practicing that is extremely important. There is a fundamental here that I want to share with you today, and it's something that most real estate professionals and really most people in business don't do, and that is setting up a daily to-do structure. Have you ever gotten up to start your day, and especially in this business, and you're like, well, I know I need to follow up on some emails, and I know I have a closing or two coming up, and I should get by the office for some training, and I know Dan has a webinar coming out, but you're really not focused on a specific set of tasks that are going to get you to an end result. Remember, the reason that you're setting yourself up to do all these things every day is to achieve those things we talked about in the previous slide, which were what? Vacation, pay off debt, spend more time with family. So without doing these steps, you're not going to be able to achieve that. But the good news is if you do have a specific to-do list every day and you do go through it, knock it down every day, you will achieve those things that you want to achieve. Practice and master the skill. You don't want to be caught off guard in an appointment. Have you ever had a customer say to you, I have a question about this, and you just didn't know the answer, and you said, man, I really wish I had gone to that class, or I wish I had asked that question. You need to practice and get knowledgeable to respond. Top recommendations for setting up your working structure and your daily to-do habits. I want you to write these down. First half of your day should be focused on capturing new leads. Practice skills, lead generate, contact, and manage. Well, what does all that mean? It means that the first part of your day, in the morning and in the earlier part of the day, you should be calling people from your database. You should be calling your friends and family. You should be following up with past clients, past customers, vendors, people that could potentially give you more business. Why should the beginning of the day be planned for capturing new leads? Well, let's face it, you're more energetic because the day has not happened to you yet. So we all know that 5-6 o'clock hour, we've had some things come up, we might have been beaten up from the day. We're just not in the right frame of mind. But in the morning, you have more energy, you have more vigor, you're just in a better place. You'll also be certain to attend to those things rather than missing out on them because of interruptions. Once that 12 o'clock hour sort of comes around, and for many of you who start your day early, it's even earlier than that, the interruptions start rolling in. The title company needs information, or another agent calls you, or you have a customer, something, a pipe breaks at their house. There's all these things that can happen. You're going to be more attentive in the morning to following up and to getting new business. You're just going to come off differently on the phone and in person than you do later in the day when you've been beaten up. You'll also have you're more inclined, let's say it this way, when we look at this from a real standpoint, you're more inclined to do it if you do it early in the day. If you wait till later, you're just going to come up with a reason that you shouldn't do it. Well, the laundry needs my attention. I have to pick my kids up from school, or I have these things that really need me to be available. And prospecting is not a glamorous thing, so you're just going to put it off. So I encourage you to do it early in the day. Top recommendations for setting up your daily to-do habits. The second half of your day should be focused on attending to appointments. And these appointments include showing homes, previewing homes, listing appointments, closings, attending inspections. So Dan, you're telling me that I should be showing houses in the afternoon and going on listing appointments in the afternoon and all that? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that you should have a structure. So when someone calls you and says, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Real Estate Professional, I would like to have you come over tomorrow morning and list my home, you would say, well, that's great. I'd love to do that. I have Tuesday at 2 o'clock available. I also have Thursday at 1:30 available. Which works best for you? And that's a great way to share with them that you are needs, but that you do have other appointments. And here's a news flash. People want to hire a professional who has other appointments. It's true. We tend to want to work with somebody who someone else has already worked with. They've sort of taken a chance on them, and they've already gotten proven results. So never feel bad to ask somebody for an appointment in that way. Do you describe yourself as a full-time agent? Full-time is 40 hours a week. I'm here to tell you that if you're not a full-time agent, you're not doing this full-time, you're going to struggle. Does that mean that you can't work real estate part-time? Absolutely not. But whatever else is taking up your time if you have the opportunity to meet with customers and clients, I want to encourage you to have a partner or have somebody else that they can work with, so that when you're not working real estate, you're not losing business, because you're working really hard to get a lot of business and you wouldn't want to lose any of that by not being available. So let's talk about how much time it really takes to service a customer all the way through to closing. Well, for a buyer, it takes about 20 hours. And I know some of you are like, oh, it seems like it might even take more than that. This is an average. So there are some times when you're going to go out with a buyer and they're going to find a house right away and you're going to put it under contract and it's going to close 30 days later. Boy, wouldn't it be nice if that was every time, but it's not always that way. So we do say that it takes about 20 hours to work with the average buyer. Sellers, on the other hand, are only about half that much time. It only takes 12 hours to work with a seller because, again, if you have a great follow-up system and you're marketing the property correctly, there really isn't a lot of time after the initial listing other than through follow-up and communication. So the majority of the time is actually spent initially getting all the comparables done, launching your marketing program and stuff like that. So there is a higher ROI on sellers, which we'll talk about. What are you really doing with your time? One transaction a month, one closed deal a month, takes about 140 hours of non-customer available time. 2 transactions a month takes 120 hours of non-customer available time. Now this is monthly. And 3 transactions a month takes 100 hours of non-customer available time. So what are you really doing with your time is what I want to ask you. There are a few slides here. I'm going to move through them. I'm going to send these to you because they're kind of they're math, and I know we don't really like math a whole lot. So we're going to move through these. All right. When have you or when will you know that you made your goal? I want to talk about this for a second, and then we're going to move into a little family feud here. If you're not writing your goals down and you don't have a way to actually track your goals, you're really missing a huge opportunity. You should be writing your goals down somewhere where they're visible to you and your family and where you can actually mark off when you achieve the goal. So let's say you want to sell 25 homes in 2019. January 1, up on your refrigerator or up in your bedroom or somewhere that you can see it should be a big 25. Every time you close on a home, you should be drawing a big line through that and writing the next number, 24, 23, 22. Why do I say this? Because this does something to you mentally that has been proven through years of research to cause you to be more driven. I mean, can you imagine if you went bowling and before we started bowling, we put curtains up over the pins. So we were going to bowl, but we couldn't see what was happening. We couldn't see any of our results. You'd get bored pretty fast. You'd probably say, Dan, I'm not having much fun. Let's pack up and get out of here. You want to see the results of your hard work. And we're made that way. So putting something up like that, having a way to track your goals is critically important. I encourage you to do that. I can tell you personally that in my own business, I tripled my business in 1 year by doing nothing other than tracking my goals and holding myself accountable. And like we said in previous slides, having someone else hold me accountable as well and making it into a positive experience. All right, what are the 7 top methods of lead generation? Sphere of influence, people you know. I mean, you already know them, so they're going to want to use you for real estate, right? Networking. Networking is getting to know what? Getting to know new people, people that you don't know. Purchasing leads. So there are dozens of online lead generation, telephone lead generation purchases that you can make to have leads delivered directly to your phone or to your email, people you can follow up with. Talking to complete strangers. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way, to talk to people you don't know. Remember, when you don't know somebody and you talk to them, now you have a new person in your sphere of influence. You can assist another agent. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this one at the end. So make sure you write it down because I've got friends that are doing absolutely enormous business through just working with other agents in other markets. So if you don't get anything out of the slides today, I want you to write this down. Advertising. So you can advertise. You can have billboards, commercials. You can advertise your business and your brand. for sale by owners and expired. You can pursue people who already have said, I want to sell my house. I've just been unable to. So you can go assist those people in selling their home. So let's just talk again about the previous slide. We talked about assisting agents, and I want to kind of just hone in on that one because it's a really commonly missed opportunity in the real estate business. So let's just say, for instance, that you're a real estate professional that works in the Tampa Bay market, and you have quite a bit of business, you have some followers, and other agents. Well, I would challenge you to take one day a week and to pick up your telephone and to call into other markets where you don't live and work and make connections with agents there. For instance, if you do work in the Tampa Bay area, we know that thousands upon thousands of people every year move to the great state of Florida. And a lot of those people move into the Tampa Bay area. So wouldn't it be cool if you had a whole network of real estate professionals in other counties and other states sending you business? Well, the best way to do that is to reach out to them and to get on a first name basis with some of them so that when they have people moving to your great state and more importantly into your great territory, your county where you work, they're sending you the referrals. It's an amazing side of the business. I want you to focus on that. I'm always happy to tell you more strategies about how to do that. So let's move on. The 8 fundamentals to being a top agent: you've got to have goals. You've got to develop habits. You've got to start your day early. Don't let this one miss you, guys and girls. You got to get up out of the bed. You got to get ready. You got to get to the office or to get to your home office or get to your appointments early. And no, I don't mean 10 o'clock. I mean, you need to be hitting the ground running every single day. What separates you from the people and the agents in this business that are crushing it is the fact that they are willing to drag themselves out and to do the work that needs to be done early in the day. If you were to just start your day 3 hours before everybody else and you just worked a 5-day week, which I know would be a dream for most realtors, you'd pick up a whole lot more time in a month, right? So if you got 15 hours a week more, you'd get an extra 60 hours a month, right, on your competition. So what's that worth? How many more deals can you do if you start your day early? You need a daily scheduler, a daily planner. You can use your smartphone, you can use a calendar. Whatever works for you is what you need to be using. You got to have quality tools. You got to practice. You've got to adapt to change. What did we see happen 10 years ago? Things really started migrating heavily to the internet for real estate, for our real estate business. You got to adapt to that change. Things are changing again. Make sure you align yourself with an organization and with peers that can help you to adapt to that change. And then, of course, you've got to adhere to your own standards and the standards of the organizations that you work with and that you work for. Your goal is impossible. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I know that you can do it. If you can believe, you can achieve. It does matter if you believe in yourself. Your goal is actually possible, whatever it is. So if you say to me, Dan, I want to sell 100 houses next year, 100 homes, okay? That is possible. It's going to be a lot of hard work. It's going to take a lot of dedication and probably the collaboration of other agents and broker support and all kinds of people around you, but it's possible. Which step have you reached today? So this little graphic just kind of shows you all the things that are involved in getting to yes, I did it. ACT, action changes things. No action results, no success, and no reward. So if you don't do it, it's not going to happen. When is the perfect time to implement these things we've talked about today? Right now. So I thank you for joining me today for this webinar. I really try to keep them to right about an hour. I know we went a couple minutes over. Some of the videos were a little bit long, but I do thank you for joining me. I just want to leave you with this thought. If it's in your mind and you can think it and you want it, you can absolutely achieve it. I'm always here for you, and as all of us are, to help and support you. I greatly appreciate you taking time to be with me today, And I look forward to seeing you again in the future. Thanks.